I've made mention of canopies and the different ways of dealing with them. Just to recap, or maybe state it for the first time, there's a number of different ways you can deal with painting canopies. You could either try painting with a brush on each of the frames. That's going to be very difficult, not likely to get a very good result. Or you can try masking them. If you were spraying with an airbrush, that would definitely be the way to go. But I'm going to try here as well, in the same way that we masked the underside of the fuselage and then painted the same colour on to sort of seal the masking. I'm going to try a similar approach to this. So this is the test canopy, the closed version, and I've coated it in clear, as we looked at last time. I'm now masking it up, and then I'm going to try applying another brush coat of clear. Just to look at the masking in a little more detail, what I've done is I've stuck a bit of masking tape down on my cutting board, and I've cut a slice and then cut triangles. So what we do here is lift a triangle off, take some tweezers and stick that triangle in place in a corner. Move it into position and then stick it firmly down. And then you follow up with another triangle to close off these gaps. And you end up with a whole sort of series of triangles that mask each of the panes. So I'm going to continue doing that, and then we'll try applying a coat of clear before getting on with the rest of the varnish. And just as an update on what's happening with the painting of the rest of the airframe, here's where it stands at the moment. So the underside had its, I don't know, 4 coats or so of brush applied grey. Then did the same on the top with, well, firstly the grey around the masking, as I just mentioned, and then we've gone back and put the brown on top. So that's had about 4 coats as well, and now this is just a single coat of the green that's gone on. So there's a few more coats of green. This hasn't been masked, this is just freehand painted with a small flat brush. So continue on with that. This finish is very fragile, and I may have made a bit of a mistake in suggesting that I don't prime these, and I haven't primed this aircraft. The acrylic paint is very fragile on the surface, so you have to be very careful not to scratch it. As soon as this the block colours are in, I'm going to apply a coat of clear which will seal it and make it pretty much bulletproof. So a hard varnish on there, and hopefully pulling off the masking on the bottom won't pull any paint off. But yeah, the acrylic doesn't adhere very well to shiny plastic. Anyway, we'll get on with the canopy and come back when that's at the next stage. Here then is the result of the canopy test. So there's sort of 4 quarters to this. So on the left hand side here, I tried the clear barrier coat after the masking had gone on, and the right hand side I didn't. And then at the rear of the canopy, I just sloshed the paint on any old which way, and at the front I tried the normal approach I'd use of applying it quite dry, a kind of stippling pattern, and quite careful, so that try and avoid big pools that would run under the paint. And the results are, you can see quite a few marks on here. They're not paint marks, they're where the clear has leaked under the masking, and some of the interior green colour has leaked through on this paint as well. So all in all, not very good. On the side where I didn't apply the clear barrier coat, but these canopy is just dipped in clear and then masked and then painted, particularly at the front where it's painted carefully, the results are pretty good. So, test conclusive, but it failed. Don't try applying barrier coats on clear parts. Good job we had a spare. So I'll mask up and paint the real ones. The paint job is now finished on the aircraft. So the green had 2 or 3 coats, I think, because it's on the brown backing already. It was pretty good. And then there's these darker green splodges, which have a couple of relatively thick coats because it's model air paint, which is already diluted, so that can go on straight out the bottle, really. So this is now ready for gloss clear varnishing. The mask in here, I'm pleased to report, came off pretty nicely. There was a little bit of touch-up, but not very much, to be honest, just around these wing fillets. And that was kind of it. So that was the barrier coat for solid surfaces, opaque surfaces. Yeah, go for that, just not on canopies. So out with the clear next, and we'll give all of this a good dose of clear varnish to protect this paint finish and get ready for decals and weathering. Before we get on to the washes, I like to get some chipping done. So as the aircraft were battered around, paint would be chipped off and revealing the metal underneath. Particularly happened on propeller blades and leading edges of the wings, and where the pilots climbed in and out on the root of the wing. So I'm going to take a combination of a pale grey and a silver, or steel in this case, and my trusty Kevin knackered paintbrush. This is something I haven't actually tried before, so let's see how we go. So I'm going to take bits of the grey and the silver, kind of mix it up, so hopefully we'll get a slightly random pattern. I'll kind of dab off as much of the paint as possible, so it's like dry brushing, and then it's simply a case of stippling these on to the leading edge of the propeller. They particularly got worn on the back of the propeller, but there'd be a bit on the front face as well. So some stripes where stones and bits of debris have been thrown up and scratched the paint off the propeller. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that actually. So what we've got there is just a bit of silver chipping on the front, the very front of the nose cone as well, and a few random chips. I'll refresh that, and I'm hoping some of it will be more silver and some of it will be more grey, where it's corroded a bit. I'm going to do this before the washes, so that they get toned down a bit by the washes that are coming. So we can finish that off on the propeller and apply it to various other bits. One area, make sure not to apply, is the tailplanes and the rudders, because they're made of fabric, so they wouldn't chip. So we can look at the aircraft itself, and let's get a few on the leading edge of the wing, around access panels. Yeah, that's going quite well. The other tools that you can use for this, you can use a silver pencil. It's typically a job that people leave till the end, but I think these chips are more likely to be worn down over time and weathered in. So the dirt and the grime and the weathering we're going to add on top would actually tone all of this down for the most part. So I shall continue the chipping and then we'll get on with the washes. Welcome back. Okay, the decals are all on now. Most of them I left a few stencils off, to be honest, but we need to get cracking with this. So this is to show the techniques, not to look at how many stencils we can get on an aeroplane. So we're ready for the next stage for this. It could be a good idea to seal these decals in with another coat of varnish, but I'm going to get straight on with the washes. I've found that oil washes don't interfere with the decals, and I used plenty of microsol to set these down, so they're pretty rock solid in place, so they shouldn't get damaged at all. We'll then put a coat of matte varnish over the whole lot once the oil washes are done and the weathering. The other thing that's been done is the actual canopy. After my experiment with the spare canopy, I've painted this with without doing a clear barrier coat, but by stippling on the interior green and then the external green paint. So we'll give that one more coat, and then that'll be ready to take off and stick onto the aircraft. But they're going to be pretty much the last thing that goes on, along with all the sticky outy bits on the plane. So the first wash I'm going to look at doing is a mix of these two, it's Naples yellow and burnt umber, for a sort of dry, dirty, sandy wash. And you can see in here, this is really thin paint, mostly white spirit, a tiny hint of burnt umber and slightly more of the Naples yellow. What I'm going to do with this, with our favourite flat wide brush again, is just brush it gently over the whole lot. It's very subtle, very faint. It's going to sit slightly within the recesses, but it's the idea of this, I call it a slosh wash, is to get a bit of this stuff all over the whole lot. It should tone down the decals ever so slightly and get them looking a little bit dirtier. We may have to find another way of doing that. If I was spraying, then I'd spray a very thin coat of a sort of dirty, dusty colour, and that would tone the decals down nicely, particularly the white, but we don't have that option here. So we'll try and do it with these slosh washes. So I shall complete this one. The other thing that it will do is it will give us a bed of white spirit over the panel lines to enable a pin wash, which is going to be much darker and stronger, to sit within the panel lines, and that will just accentuate all of the panel gaps and the features, rivets and so on. So I'll finish doing this, we'll see what it looks like, and then we'll come back with some more washes.